Whatever you might be going through, if you feel like you're struggling to cope and need someone to talk to, Samaritans are here for you 24 hours a day, every day of the year.
Well, I've been a Samaritan for 35 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
For a very long time, since last century.
About 11 years.
I started in about 1972.
I've been at Samaritans for 2 years now.
There is a lot of unhappiness and turmoil in the world. A lot of people are affected. And it's extraordinary, the power of listening.
There are a lot of people out there who are dealing with all sorts of things and not necessarily knowing how to manage their feelings. And so hopefully Samaritans is a help in some way for those people.
It started with wanting to give something back to the community.
I mean, when you think about it, in 1953, when he started, hardly anybody had a telephone. Chad had a vision. That was a very dramatic step, a very foresighted step to take. To think, we'll have this phone, we'll tell people they can phone us.
Chad realised that actually the power of ordinary people supporting ordinary people is huge. After the war, he opened up a drop-in service for city workers as a vicar, so this wasn't as anything else. An opportunity for people to come in and talk and just take time out in the middle of the day and then go back to work. And at the same time, there was a call for a helpline. Then the story goes that Chad went down into the crypt where there was a very dusty telephone. He picked up the phone and said to British Telecom or whoever it was then, "What's this number?" And they said Mansion House 9000. And that was our first phone number.
What was it like in the crypt? It was extraordinary.
What I don't think anybody could ever understand is that we were in a cupboard. You came in through the front door below the church, went down the little steps and went into this room.
And suddenly it's a different world. There were little rooms here and little niches there. It was quite a strange, almost a cosy environment. And at the very beginning, if you were doing an overnight, a night watch, you slept up in the tower. It was very spooky.
I don't know about the blowing the dust off the telephone, but for sure we actually started it then. And it was the Daily, one of the red tops, that nicknamed us the Good Samaritans. So he didn't start Samaritans per se, he started an organisation that has grown into it.
Chad Vara, the father of the helpline.
He was really a very sort of funny, amusing man, you know.
He was dynamic, he was charismatic, he was difficult, but I think it often takes a very difficult person to set up an organisation like this. Actually, the reason he started it goes back to when he was a young curate back in the 30s. He was asked to take the funeral of a 14-year-old girl who had taken her life because she had started her periods and she was convinced that she had a sexually transmitted disease and there was something absolutely awful wrong with her, and had parents that she couldn't talk to, and shared with nobody her shame, because for her it was shame because she didn't know what it was, and took her life because she couldn't live with herself. Chad then, as at the graveside, made a promise to her that he would start an organisation so that nobody would have to die because they had no one to talk to.
I would love to live in a world where we no longer need to have the Samaritans, where we as a society are able to have the difficult conversations and be completely emotionally transparent about how we're feeling. But unfortunately, that is not the case. The Samaritans becomes an imperative service to allow people to have open and honest dialogue about what's going on with them.
I think the most difficult kind of calls are the calls you get where somebody has actually is attempting to kill themselves as you're on the phone.
The very few instances where I have spoken to somebody who is dying because they are very seriously ill, and that's a hard call.
I suppose the most challenging part of being a Samaritan is not knowing what you're just about to hear. I always sort of take a moment before I make myself available for a call just to sort of think, this could be anything.
You are seeing people who are very much hanging on by their fingernails a lot of the time. You realise that there are people who are really struggling just to stay alive. Forget the big television and the fancy car. They're just holding it together.
We as an organisation pride ourselves on being very good at listening to people.
We are a caring voice at the end of the phone, and I just don't think that you can replicate that.
Being heard, listened to, is very, very important in any situation.
You, the caller, can rely on me as a Samaritan's volunteer. No matter what you say, no matter what you go through, I'm there for you.
We've all had the experience of waking up at 3 a.m. and it feels like you're the last person alive in the entire universe. And that's not a good feeling if you're not in a good place.
The ability to be a light for somebody probably when there's darkness is really important.
If someone is awake in the night, it's often because there's a need for somebody there, and then they can look around and there isn't anybody else, there's only Samaritans.
I guess Central London Samaritans, it's a bit of an anchor really.
We're the first branch, the place that most people think of when they think of Samaritans.
This branch has never closed in its 70-year history.
Its location, I think, is absolutely amazing.
When we talk about listening to London, we see London as our community. And that makes it special because it means that we can actually work with very particular areas. By the early 80s, we had outgrown St Stephen. We didn't have enough space. We didn't have enough space to train people or to have bedrooms for volunteers to sleep in or to look after callers. So we started a hunt for a building. Soho. It's dirty, it's scruffy, it's in the middle of life. That's where Samaritans need to be. So it was like, just go with my blessing. We weren't looking specifically here, but when it actually came up and as being available, it was like, well, of course, you know, Soho is such a great place. Location right, size right, and everything else.
Soho is not only obviously reflective of the branch itself, with the fact that it is a vibrant and great part of London, but also it's accessible. Being somewhere that everyone can get to with ease is really imperative. So if you're in a vulnerable state, sometimes the walk to the building can kind of be a soothing process before you need to have the discussion about whatever's on your mind.
There are not many other services where you can just turn up, no appointment, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and have a chance to be heard.
I remember being on shift on Saturday afternoon. There was a ring at the doorbell and there was a guy standing there, and he said, I said, do you want to come in? He said, no. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you to somebody, and I saw the Samaritan sign and I thought, I know I can say thank you because you guys saved my life.